All right, yeah, Ray, you, all right, let's call the meeting to order, today is June 4th, 2025, it's 12:06. Thanks everybody for coming in, like I said, maybe come over. As we go, we have a pretty good agenda today, we have a guest speaker, Paul's here today, I'm honored, gonna give us an update on some grants. We don't meet during the summer. Because it's summer, but it's this with the federal government cuts and changes with the budgets and stuff, it's fluid, so we may have to meet, the federal government needs us to meet, then we call that.
Yeah, so typically, just what John said, typically it's, it's tough for us to get decent turnout during the summer months, so we tend to try to avoid meeting in July and August, and barring any special meeting that you might need to convene to expedite the approval of the SEDS document, we won't plan to meet again until October. So having said that, we did receive notice recently from the EDA that suggests things might be returning to some level of normalcy, which in essence could mean that they'll be looking for us to have the new 5-year plan wrapped up remotely soon. So while we haven't heard from anyone specifically on that quite yet, having a meeting in October is still a possibility. So as I've said before, if we need to do that, you'll all get advance notice and you'll know about it. So
Thank you. Why don't we go around the room again and introduce ourselves, start with just name, title, and organization, I'll start with Jeff.
Yeah, sorry.
Just being the right person.
Some very good things there. Jeff Charnell, Northeast Savings Bank, also running for city councilor at large for the city of Brockton. Happy.
Cindy Pendergast, Neighbor Works Housing Solutions, I'm Director of our Brockton office.
Don Sullivan, EDC Economic Development Director.
Paul Valella, North Atlantic States Carbon.
Sue Murray, Executive Director of SEED.
Rick Jordan, Town of Avon.
Mike, I'm Senior Grants Development Specialist.
Scott Fay, Brockton Lending Department.
Charlie Seeley, Town Administrator, Bridgewater.
Nick Chiquinto, Senior Economic Development Planner.
Jonathan Jamulis, Chair of the EDC, and give Dr. Fay the time kitchen. Yeah, but at home, good.
Folks online, you can start with Pamela. Want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Pam McCarthy, Stoughton's Economic Development Director.
Anyone jump in?
Mary Ellen DeFrias Gatra.
Hi, I'm Stephanie in Bridgewater State University.
Hi there, Shane O'Brien, Town Planner for the Town of Bridgewater.
Hi there, Nicole Salvo, the Assistant Town Planner and Community Outreach Coordinator for the Town of Bridgewater.
Hi, Tony DeFries, Town Planner for the Town of Hanson and their delegate.
Hi, I'm Joe Mick with the Brockton Area Transit Authority.
Sean Bailey, Senior Transportation Planner, Old Colony Planning Council.
Hi, I'm Laura Buckley, Mass Higher South Shore Workforce Board.
Everyone? I see Tony in there. Tony DeFrias. Tony, good to see you. I think that's it.
Yeah, Chairwoman.
Oh, and our Vice Chair.
It's a long way to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, Alicia's Anna, Harry. Vice Chair.
6 o'clock yet?
Okay, so let's move on to item number 2 of our agenda, which is accepting the meeting minutes. Nick sent those out to everybody. So if anybody's having any comments or edits on this, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so it's all going around the federal level, reduce spending for better or worse. We know there are some major changes that's being made to the programs, grants, mechanisms in the communities, planning agencies. That said, we understand many implications, particularly in the planning field. CPC. We want to just spend a few minutes hearing from Paul about there's a grant specialist here at OCPC about what's going on. Paul?
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. Just to reiterate what Jonathan said. Yeah, we thought it would be good to have some sort of update on what exactly is going on at the federal level. that's been impacting our work or that has had the potential to impact our services and what we do here at OCPC. Paul, whose expertise is in grants and funding, which he's done for some time now, has a pretty good handle on a lot of the stuff and everything that's going on. So we wanted folks to hear directly from him today on some of our ongoing challenges and some of the developments out of DC. So Paul, feel free.
Just give us a little background on your career, if you don't mind, before you start.
Sure. So before working here, I worked for the city of Rockland for almost 10 years, working in grants management, but I was also a financial analyst for the CFO's office for quite a bit of time, almost 4 years. So I've been doing this a little while and, you know, we'll say we're in a unique period right now, but definitely wanted to give an update based on what I've heard and what I've been, you know, researching, at least in the last few months. So really to kick it off is, I think now at this point, we're really seeing clarity in terms of the outlook relative to federal grants. We know what the executive orders are, what the administration priorities are. And really that's what we have to work with, right? So what I've been seeing is things really leveling off in terms of secretaries to different federal departments really now having more discretion available to really kind of temper things down and in certain circumstances make appropriations necessary to specific programs. I'm going to highlight 3 in particular. So the Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Administration doing quite well and has really leveled off in terms of the uncertainty. We just had a great conversation with Congressman Keating's office relative to the reauthorization of the Highways, Surface Highways Act. So some really positive developments there, looking for inputs from RPAs, but also communities. And then, of course, Nick mentioned the Economic Development Administration. Some positive news that is coming out through there relative to their grant programs, but also the many grant that we receive here that allows us to do the great work that we see here. And then one other one that was mentioned as well is opportunity zones legislation. Right now it's in the Senate. And John, to my left, mentioned that there's a webinar coming up soon. So I'm curious to see how that comes to fruition, what that brings. So, so this is sort of where we're at. And something I want to point out that's been a great resource for me over the years is there's an organization called Ferguson Group. They're considered a Washington lobbying organization, but they really do have the pulse of what's going on in DC. A lot of what they provide is free. So what you see here is a spreadsheet that they've been working on for quite a while now, and it updates on a weekly basis. Just giving folks an idea of what is now open, what's going to be anticipated to be open, what grants have been rescinded. So within the spreadsheet, you can filter that out, and I'll get a link for anybody interested in taking a peek at that. So it's been a great tool for me, and I think it may be a great tool for folks here. And then I briefly just wanted to get into a little bit about the House reconciliation package and the way it stands right now, focusing on some of the things that are leaving, some of the things that are happening. So as expected, based on the executive orders, some of the rescissions we're seeing are related to energy, particularly the state-based energy efficiency training grants that we've been seeing relative to the Inflation Reduction Act are going away, unfortunately. Energy infrastructure reinvestment finance loan program is also removed as part of this bill. 2 grant programs in particular that I know that have been important to many of our communities is the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles program. So that would have provided electric vehicles for DPW fleets. That one's been around for a little while now. School air quality grants also. I know that many of our schools have try to take advantage of that one for some time, so that's also being removed as part of this package. That's in addition to NOAA funding and National Park Service funding as well. So again, just wanted to highlight that, but one more on that. Something that will remain, that's at least in this bill, is the Inflation Reduction Act direct pay. So that's the program that's out right now that allows you to basically apply for energy credits, like energy efficiency projects. So I encourage you to look at the IRS's website and continue to take advantage of that program while it's still here, or at least in this House package. And then lastly, just getting into transportation and infrastructure, some things to note that was relevant that I thought in that bill was, anybody who's an EV or hybrid owner, so there is a provision in there in FY 27 that will require, you pay actually an annual federal fee. I thought it was kind of interesting, so $250 a year for EV owners, $100 a year for hybrid vehicle owners, so, according to the legislation, the fee structure will be in place until October 1st, 2035. Again, that could change when it goes to the Senate, for the Senate. At least as it stands right now, that provision is in there. And something else to note is, relative to transportation is, there's $104 million authorized in implementation grants for the Federal Highway Administration. So some good news there. That there'll be a max of $2 million per state. All funds are remitted to the DOT or a trust fund. And then one more grant of note that's going to be rescinded relative to Department of Transportation is the Neighborhood Access and Equity Grant Program, or what we've noted as the Reconnecting Communities Grant Program. So that was one that basically looked at surface transportation projects, how the removal of a road or a bridge would potentially reconnect communities, particularly environmental justice communities. So that's another unfortunate removal in this bill. So just wanted to highlight that as well. And that's really it for me. One other thing, or two other things I wanted to just point out quickly is the reauthorization of the bipartisan infrastructure law is upcoming. So be on the lookout for that in 2026. So, happy to provide updates as that becomes available. It won't be on the scale that we obviously saw in the previous administration, but nonetheless hopeful that, we'll see continual bipartisan support for that. And then just briefly on the state side of things, the one stop is due today, 4 midnight. So thinking about doing an application, you got until actually no, I shouldn't say midnight, 1 minute before midnight. So that's it for me.
All right, yeah, and then just to chime in on the EDA piece, and Don, feel free to chime in on what I failed to mention, but I know I mentioned earlier that we received notice recently from the EDA about some stuff. This is actually for some really good news. There was a lot of uncertainty for a while about whether our partnership planning grants, which we rely on to run this commission and all the SEDS work we do, would actually continue. A lot of folks were afraid it was going to be cut and we'd be out of a critical funding source. And that grant has been sort of a lifeline for regional planning agencies that have economic development districts across the country. And it wouldn't be good. It'd be devastating if we lost that. But we officially received word a few weeks ago that not only will these carry on and continue, but will now require 40% less of a match than is normally required of us. So in the past, we've had to put up a 100% match, a 1-to-1 match up for our award. Now we only need to contribute 60%. So this is some really great news because it allows us to keep some more funding in our pockets, and they're even making some administrative changes to sort of streamline how we actually go about receiving the money. The same can't really be said about a lot of other agencies like the EPA. I'm working with them now on a regional brownfields grant. A lot of that's being pretty heavily scrutinized, as you might imagine. A lot of new cumbersome reporting and administrative requirements, that sort of thing. But I think, economic development is obviously a subject that is far more aligned with the administration's agenda, I think, than say climate or environment or human services and that sort of thing, especially with the whole tariff situation. So overall, this is pretty good news for us on that front.
Yeah, just to add, we haven't taken our foot off the gas, but EDA's been under attack before. They would just be authorized in December. So we're moving forward. By now, you look on the list, we have 6 million in requests for ongoing projects. We're gonna go for another 3 million in the next couple of months. So we haven't stopped, but just keep moving forward.
Is there a fear that being a Democratic state that's crisis?
Yeah,
we're blue state, but
Is it right?
they sit around those tables and make decisions about who's gonna get it, who's not gonna get it. Yeah, they are very tough-minded EDI representative for Massachusetts, we've given her a lot of projects over the years. So she's got our back. So again, we've got the projects, we have the capacity. We have the, the success and show what we've done over the years, so. It's been this like.
Right.
She's at the table.
So they'll see more applications from us, so. They won't be unfamiliar with us, right? So we're hoping that doesn't work against us because we always give them good projects, but we always give them projects, but they're good. So, with any sense, our applications, when the administration looks at these, and the EDA looks at these are good common sense projects for infrastructure and other things. So, hopefully we'll continue to have some good luck with this.
Anybody have any questions for Paul? Anybody at home?
Nick, this is Mary Ellen. I'm just gonna jump in. I'm part of the APTA team. We met with Rep. Graves, Chairman Graves, who chairs the reauthorization on transportation infrastructure. We've also met with the entire Massachusetts delegation. There's a real emphasis on process and streamlining rather than funding. We went in with a list of requests that we feel the administration would be more open to. So no discussion on electric vehicles, but a real focus on the policy and some of the red tape that we get held up with as transit administrations. The one thing I would say that we should just all be mindful of is that there is some scary language coming out of DOT right now. And the state is part of a lawsuit against this, so we may not have access to our federal highway funding if we don't sign certain documents, and currently I'm not signing mine. So there is some stuff going on that the administration is trying to force Massachusetts to do regarding DEI and ICE, that we're part of a lawsuit not to be held to that, but it will impact our ability to draw down, or not to draw down, but to acquire new funding.
Gotcha. Thanks, Marielle. Anyone else?
And I apologize to people that are working offsite. I keep saying working from home. I know it's not the case. It's just, it's in my vernacular. I'll try to get it out. Sorry. All right, on to the next, let's see. So this section, so Nick and Don are working a lot about our regional development, commercial industrial site inventory for some time. You still forward for the world. Oh, I did. Sorry, I was trying to move it.
It's all right.
Nick and Don, you guys are working on a few projects.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys want to give us an update of the projects you're working on?
Yeah, no, thanks, Jonathan. I won't spend too much time on this here, but there kind of is a lot to cover. As has been the case, pretty frequently, once again, we got some new exciting projects in the works that I'd like to cover that I'm sure folks would like to hear about. So I'll just give some updates on those and then and just jump right in. So starting with our Avon Sewer project, I know Rick's here for design and engineering through the EDA. Our application is still pending. Unfortunately, we've been trying to get a status on it through one of our congressional friends, but we're almost there. I think at our last meeting, I mentioned that we were looking to address some administrative issues that had to be worked out. We wound up finally resolving those with our co-applicants and are now just waiting to hear back from the EDA. So hopefully some good news to report on that at our next meeting. Regional wastewater study. So this is a new project of ours that we've had our minds on for some time now, which we're now officially pursuing. Similar to the regional water study we were funded for by the EDA, we're now also applying for funding to conduct a regional wastewater study. We're always talking about our lack of wastewater infrastructure and utilities in our region, and it continues to really sort of be an impediment to economic growth here. And the on-site disposal systems that we rely on really tend to limit industry here and the potential for expansion. So we'd like to undertake a comprehensive wastewater study to develop a plan for expanding municipal sewer services throughout the district into all of our 17 communities. So that said, essentially we'll be assessing current and future wastewater needs, exploring things like expansion options, so new utility infrastructure and facilities, and navigating environmental and regulatory processes. So it's our hope that the project can help us sort of strengthen local infrastructure and ensure more long-term regional competitiveness. So our application was recently submitted and we're looking forward to working with each of our communities on that project soon. So we'll see what happens. Regional water study. So an FYI to folks, this has been going on for some time now. The regional water study is officially completed. So this was another successful project of ours funded by the EDA. Joya Zigman from our comprehensive planning team did a great job leading this, and our consultant CDM Smith really helped us deliver a quality project. So if you'd like to check it out, or if you haven't seen it yet, the full document and its deliverables are available on our website to review. So if you're interested, please check that out when you have the time. Just pop on our website and it's there for you. East Bridgewater Sewer Project. It's been some time since we last provided an update on this project along Route 18 in East Bridgewater. We had some legal hurdles, but my understanding is that bids for construction have gone out and.
Well, in fact, bids were due on Friday. We got 7 responses. The low bid, which is from a legitimate firm, and maybe even the second or third bids are within budget.
Right.
We're hoping to have a contract award next Monday with the select board. Recommendation of Ross and Sampson. I don't think we're gonna get construction started in mid-June, but
Yeah.
still move the contracts.
Still ambitious.
See us in July for
Okay.
a groundbreaking.
That's great. It's good news. EDA annual partnership planning grant. So I know I touched upon this earlier when we were talking about some of the good news out of DC. But some good news on this to share now that we know the grant is here to stay. So as an EDD, as an economic development district, we receive this funding every year under this program to carry out our SEDS agenda in the SEDS document. So recently our EDA contact reached out to Dawn about 2 weeks ago or so to inform us that we should be expecting an invitation to reapply to the program any day now. So this would be for another 3 years. It would ensure that we have annual funding to continue our work with the EDC. And now only having to contribute 60% match, we're in a better position too. Eastern Sewer Project. So this was something I think I mentioned probably pretty briefly at our last meeting as something that's sort of in its infancy stages. An intermunicipal agreement has been signed between Easton and Brockton for sewer service. And now at this point, we had a good meeting with Stephanie and the Easton Planning Office and are now moving on an EDA application for D&E, for design and engineering. So we'll be working on this over the next several weeks and are anticipating an early July application submittal. So
Yeah, likely in
July. So non-EDA projects that we have in the works, our Mass Tech Hub grant. I think I mentioned this before at our last meeting and one before that. I think I filled everyone in on the app. So we submitted an application to the Mass Technology Collaborative that essentially would establish a Tech Hub designation for the advanced manufacturing industry along the Route 24 corridor. I think I had mentioned before, it's at least 60 or so companies that we've identified that fit within the advanced manufacturing field that pose a good opportunity for the award this grant presents. So we haven't heard back on this yet, but a decision is somewhat imminent, Paul.
Should be by the end of June.
By the end of June. So we're getting pretty excited about this one because this is something that could probably open a lot of doors for us, especially in the wake of all this news about tariffs and companies relocating. We're hoping that we get a good decision on this and we'll be able to do something with it. Certainly help us with future applications. So we'll keep you all posted on this and see where things go this month. Community one-stop project. So as Paul mentioned earlier, our deadline is today for the community's deadlines for the state's one-stop program are today. Whitman is of the communities we're talking to about potential one-stop projects that we're looking at. I know Whitman is looking to take on a master plan. They're talking about a housing production plan that we hope we can work with them on. Pembroke is planning to work with us on developing a strategy for revitalizing its town center, known as the Center Protection District. I know we're having some conversations right now about some work with the Herring Pond, Wampanoag tribe, which is exciting. So, hopefully the one-stop program will be good to us this year, and we'll have, some additional, projects to report on in the future. Additionally, Don and I sat down with Town of Whitman a few weeks ago. They were successful with some earmark money through the legislature for economic development stuff. This was part of I think it was the post-pandemic economic recovery legislation back in 2022. So we're gonna be using that, to develop a downtown improvement strategy that's focused primarily on the downtown business district. So that should be great. Lastly, in the interest of time here, I won't get too far into this, but we're about halfway through our brownfields assessment grant now. We had a steering committee meeting on May 19th, and we're conducting assessment activities so far on 7 different sites, and have at least 3 that we have slated for reuse or redevelopment planning of some kind. So we're gonna be transitioning soon from a lot of the phase 2 testing to determining reuse strategies for specific sites, based on whatever we find out their levels of contamination to be from our assessment activities. I think that's it.
Well,
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
anybody have any questions?
Question on the tech, if you get the tech hub grant, the technology collaborative, are you planning to do some economic studies, like economic base studies or shift share or analysis? What do you have in mind there?
I think the first phase, and Paul or Don, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's for a strategy, correct? For implementing a strategy.
It's develop a strategy. It's relative to conversations we had, working with, 3 of our IRETs, working with, Southeastern Regional, working with other, colleges and universities, obviously, other institutes of higher ed. In really creating a pipeline program, right? It really talks about the education piece, but also how do we get these folks into these industries? Certainly, that's something we can talk about as we go along and develop the plan. If we are to be fortunate to get this, we get $100,000 to be able to develop this, but also the tech hub designation for our region, which I think will open up a lot of different opportunities. So, the intent of the strategy is to really flush that out and further develop.
And that's the one we applied for the strategy. That's like sort of phase 1. So
Yeah, phase 1, and then, if we develop something that everybody's in agreement with, we could go back and apply again for implementation funding, which this time around, they're offering up to $5 million for them, so.
if we're awarded, we can then apply for implementation funds.
Correct, or some other funding, federal funding, or state funding, that they come in between.
Yeah, Paul, so it's a 1-year reference plan, or is it, how many months to do the plan?
Yeah, it's 12 to 18 months to do the plan, you have the tech hub designation for 3 years.
Right, so the plan will help us put a strategy, then we can chase other funding for various projects that are relative to the strategy and stuff. So the designation is really a branding for our district. The tech hub will, open up doors for the other opportunities for funding. The local, again, we'll see what happens in the June.
Yeah.
Good. You said 24 quarters of 24.
It includes certain communities. So from Avon.
Avon, Brockton, Stoughton. Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, only because I'm hearing this and it's so important, because I think Rick's question particularly was more, more technical.
Yeah, I have this open.
Part is
Get a map for you.
really just planning. It takes a lot of time and effort to bring different folks together to be collaborative, and it really is bringing that and taking a super part of many of those meetings. Still sticking with the plan of planning and identifying the different industries and supporting them. And the idea is we're starting with just the 4. Thank you very much. East End, Stoughton, Avon, and Brockton. It does not leave out anybody else along the way, particularly like West Bridgewater and others. And, we're letting the communities, and I know John's here for Brockton, particularly there's some activity going on here in downtown, and elsewhere. So it's the whole town community. So planning first, getting our foot in the door. I did run into the executive director of CBC at a recent meeting, and I said, please give us the money, because we did it. They also said, we're also doing it the right way. It's the workforce boards, it's the tech, folk tech, it's the planners, it's the economic development folks, it's the town manager. We're bringing everybody to the table and giving everybody that chance to voice what their needs are. And, you know, I know Pam McCarthy was part of those meetings as well. You know, so while communities can go for it individually, being as a region can be much more effective and supporting each other, right? Because everybody's looking for workers with particular skill set, and there just is not enough. So whatever we can do to identify, bring people together, working, again, the workforce board is doing a lot already, but they were not eligible to apply for this, and we came in to again continue the work on a regional basis. So, so I don't know if that answers your question, Rick, but we should be hearing soon, very
Should be by the end of the month.
end of the month. Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, with some great partners, right? So we have like 3 higher educational institutions in Massasoit, Stonehill, Bridgewater, and we're a regional planning district that has 2 vocational high schools too. So South Shore and Southeastern. So some good news on that front. Hopefully we'll hear back and get some good news.
Yeah, in this past weekend with the Boston Legacy, how does develop, so that's a potential $30 to $40 million development. How does that fit into some of the things that we're crafting here? You know, that.
So the industries are dictating the hub tech. It is robotics, it's, I mean, I don't have.
Aeronautics.
Cybersecurity.
So really on the manufacturing and those pieces that spin
Yeah.
off from that. So.
Photonics as well.
Photonic, right, so there's that piece that is identified, but I think in terms of what they're thinking, Boston Legacy. Probably not, but everybody's looking for workers, but I would recommend, you know, full disclosure, I sit on the Greater Brockton Workforce Board, go to them, they have great resources to assist for training, and if it's not available, they'll connect and find ways of funding those specific skill sets.
On sewer design, we just had 3 bids on our sewer design contract. You got 7 on your construction. What was your experience with sewer design bids? Similar
Well, we never went out to put,
or design?
yeah, storage system requested the same sign.
I see. Thank you.
Any comments from remotely? Anybody remote, have any comments or questions? Good. All right, next item on the agenda is the industrial site inventory project that Don and Nick have been working on. You guys wanna go over
Sure. Yeah, so I know at each of our past EDC meetings, I mentioned the progress being made on this. Through our commercial industrial site inventory project that we were funded for by the EDA. It's getting very somewhat close to completion now, and at this point, we wanted to share with you all sort of what this is all about and what it looks like. So before walking you through it, I'll just explain a little bit about what the purpose of this really is. So commercial and industrial areas across our region and everywhere for that matter are, you know, always seem to be hotspots for analyzing the potential for economic growth, right? And in the Old Colony region, we have a pretty fair amount of industrially zoned areas that could pose economic opportunities and benefits for our communities. So what we did was we went ahead and identified these areas and then gathered data using GIS, Mass Mapper, assessor databases and other relevant sources to essentially help us assess each site's potential for things like expansion opportunities, new development, redevelopment, utility infrastructure, et cetera. And what we wound up doing was making projections based on existing data about things like built square footage, existing acreage, and number of jobs and companies, et cetera, to provide a sense of where the opportunity for growth in each community might be. So going forward with this, municipalities, developers, companies, and others, they'll be able to access this resource to see and understand the region's commercial and industrial assets, and even with a geographic perspective as well. So we have lots of maps that show aerial imagery of each site. We have a town map for each community that identifies these areas and some other features, including drone footage for a number of the industrial parks we have. So this, for us, this is very much gonna be a go-to for future projects, and it's gonna be very valuable for us to use. That's not to say as well for our communities. I'm hoping communities and companies, developers can look at this and get a sense of where potential spots to relocate might be. Where is there room for growth? Where do we not have utility infrastructure where it should be, or where the jobs are? So, and a quick shout out to Megan and Andrew. Megan and Andrew have been busting their hump on trying to get this ready. We do a lot of this stuff, but she's the one, and her and Andrew have done all of the work, placing it on the website and making it look pretty. So anyway, so this is what it looks like so far. We have, you know, more work to do on this as we go along, but this is our landing. This is what the landing page on our website is going to look like. Here's some drone footage from each of the industrial, a number of the industrial parks that we've been able to go to and shoot footage for. And then what it's going to show. So this is what, for lack of a better phrase, our matrix is going to look like. So this gives us a list of all of our communities and identifies each industrial park or each industrial commercial location with significant development, significant jobs in companies, and that sort of thing. So we scroll down, total, so you can find total acreage, whether it's got municipal sewer, municipal water, the amount of total built space that exists in each of these areas, the number of firms, the number of companies there are there, and the number of jobs in the particular area. And then if we scroll to the right a little bit, these are projections. So based on the data we looked at from those resources I described, you know, we're able to estimate a certain amount of available acreage left for development and the projected new square footage that could be built at these locations and the potential for redevelopment or expansion. So a lot of these warehouses and the existing infrastructure these companies are located in have the potential to be expanded for redevelopment or growth. And we're also able, based on some of that data, able to project the possible number of firms that could be moved in there, and as well the amount of jobs that might come from new development and new firms relocating there. So then we have environmental constraints. So if we come down, each of these will you'll be able to click each of these and it will take you to its individual community page. And so if we click on Plimpton, for instance, should take us to the Plimpton page. Yeah, so all of the site details populate here on the page. And again, this is going to look different. This is just a draft now as work on this is ongoing, but we'll have a town map that shows precisely where the industrial area is. So you can see it over here in the southeast corner. And you can see this. This is Cisco. This is the Cisco plant just north of Route 44, which is sort of over here. And then all that information will be on the side. So it's still a work in progress, but we're hoping that this is going to be a useful tool that we can use as a go-to for projects, but that hopefully is useful for communities to take a look at where the potential for economic growth exists in each of their towns. So we're going to be working on this over the next several weeks to refine it. We're probably going to be uploading maybe some more maps and making things a little bit more user friendly. If you want to search, so if you're right now, we have a search bar. So if you're looking for anything specific, you can find, if you're looking for a certain amount of acres, this is just for existing information, but we're also going to have a search bar for projected. So you'll be able to search if you're looking for, I don't know, 500 new jobs in Abington. You'll be able to search 500 jobs. It'll take you to Abington and it will show you where the opportunity exists in Abington for job creation. So it's cool. We put in a lot of work on this and we're hoping to have it wrapped up sometime in the next several weeks.
Like the color coding, very cool. Columns correspond to the top of those. Well, just like.
Yeah,
It's not an incident. No, I meant the columns corresponding with the.
Yeah, yeah.
With the information, I think that's great.
In the private sector use this?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're hoping they do. A lot of companies are looking to expand, and hopefully this gives them a good idea about where the potential for them to grow or relocate might be.
Actually, Nick, I'm just gonna pull Megan up, because without Megan, this would not happen.
Absolutely.
I know over the last couple of weeks, whether the conversations are over this wall, or she's coming over there. So while the data is really important, for sure, with Nick and Don and others, I know that they hunker down, unless they hunker down in the small office room, but then to make it appealing to all. I mean, I can just see how this can be utilized, right? And the previous conversation we had on the hub tech, where things are, what's located, whether you are a banker, whether you're a private industry, whether you're a town manager, whatever the topic's going to be. But I just wanted to acknowledge Megan, Andrew Vidal, who also left her out, for sure. But Megan, anything that goes onto this website, but anything that is, sorry, Nick, not that you're not
It's okay.
created.
Oh,
But
we're not.
they're not created.
Yeah,
And they get yelled at. because they-
Colorblind.
Someone's like, oh, she's working on this again, like, what else I got, anyway. I just wanted to pull Megan out just to acknowledge, and, Nick and Don will be taking Megan out for dinner. For the next
Already
year.
offered. I
For the
offered
next-
good
yeah,
food.
For the next year. Anyway, I know she's got some other things.
Eric, who shot the drone video? Did Megan do
No,
that?
I'm not back in.
We have drone pilots.
Yeah.
We have 4 drone pilots, and we're working on a couple others.
Awesome. Employees or
Yeah,
contracts?
They're licensed pilots. I know
We
John
hire out.
Fay is
keep
also
them.
yeah.
Well, we're working with a very small crazy company, so I just.
Yeah, it's cool. It
Yeah.
is cool. It came about, I mean, certainly the work that we did. Oh, Andrew Vidal, just come back.
There's the map maker.
So before Megan came on board, Andrew Vidal, who also, had, really was like the, what is it, the computer guy? Something like that. Anyway, but certainly in terms of our website, we maintain, but, between Andrew and Megan, the site inventory, the assessment, the other aspects of our economic development element of our organization has just blossomed over the last 2 years and becoming more interactive. So anyway, Andrew was also one of our drone pilots, so
Right.
Nice work.
I love it. So this is, I know Nick wanted to come before this committee. We will be doing also a press event, so we'll be looking for some folks from this board to go out as we further promote. The only other really organization is Mass Econ from the state, if anybody has heard, so statewide site finders, if you will. But this is as close as we can get within our own region. Sometimes, right? Come to where you have, this is where you can find all the information, you can know about the infrastructure, and know where roads and what kind of septic or sewer capacity. Again, this organization sees it from a larger view, a more global view between comprehensive planning and transportation and economic development, but we also have our age-friendly department, and we all intertwine and work together about what the bottom line is. So kudos, again, I will not only to these, but to Don and to Nick. And every so often I come into there, I'd say, well, what about this? And quote their work, but I just at least a question. And so I would ask for all of you to take a look at it as well from your plans. And before we go public out there, to get your input, to looking at, private industry folks. That's really. And that's my 2 cents.
Thanks. Yeah.
How are we maintaining what the inventory is and how often, and where did we get the information and how current?
Sure, so, most of the information we got from a number of sources, so we use GIS, and, Mass Mapper, and, assessor database to basically calculate, or figure out of the existing structures in each of these areas, how much total square footage is already built, which gives us a good indication of, existing built space, and then by looking at it, using tools like GIS and Mass Mapper, we could look at it, remove the wetlands and any other, land use restrictions on site, and then measure those, to calculate how much acreage is available left for development. Mostly those tools, it's a combination of those three, and then going on site, looking at some of these in person and talking to each individual community too, so. It's been like a whole number of things, and if we have to, I expect we'll have some more conversations with communities as this gets ironed out. About maybe something we missed or something we didn't get correct, so, I think it's in a good spot now, but, it's been a number of sources for getting this information. Anything else?
And before it goes live, will anyone from any of the towns have access so they could review any of it if they wanted to add anything?
Yeah, so this will, in the next few weeks, this will probably go on our site live, but, we are reaching out, we've reached out to a number of communities to vet the data. Many of them got back to us, many we're still waiting to hear from, so, but yes, there will be an opportunity if the community looks at any of these, looks at the data or the numbers, thinks that maybe something's not right. We'd love to have them, reach out and have it corrected if we can. But hopefully they're as good or as close to being accurate as can be.
Now, I know, so one of the examples from Brockton is kind of a mishmash. It's, West Chestnut down there, Pearl Street. So
Yeah.
is there a threshold by which we're designating an industrial area?
We looked at the zoning too.
We didn't,
Okay.
where the locations are, the clusters, the last clusters in development, the employment centers.
Right.
So, relative to Brockton, there's really just two, right? Two big.
Yeah, it was like basically.
They increase in size. That's why I was asking,
Right.
was there a threshold?
For instance, so for Cohasset Brook,
Were three, firms in.
for Cohasset Brook, we basically, we took the Cohasset Brook, boundaries, I think were in the study from a few years ago.
Okay.
But what we tried to do is look at the zoning to sort of mimic the zoning and then add in, if there was like existing, available acreage for new development that was dry and, buildable, we would rope in some of that space as the number of acres and that industrially zoned area, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, only like really two areas, Oak Hill Way.
Right.
Area.
Yeah.
And then the Easy Brook area.
So my question spawned from like Sparks Street. There's a few food production facilities there. And, while they may not even be on technically industrial zone, and, that industrial activity is still happening there nonetheless. I was just curious, if it's three
Yeah.
firms within a particular area,
Large
firms.
areas, I don't think that Sparks Street came up on.
No, well, we also, took into consideration whether, there was potential for growth there, right? So that was one of the.
Yeah, we constantly go out, and look to see what it looks like, how many vehicles are out there in a given day. And what the building looks like, if it's this investment on, how much of the space being utilized. So that plays into a perception of, this is an opportunity for redevelopment, right? Our experience.
Yeah.
So we gauge that basically on a reconnaissance, look at it. But, in the area you're talking about, there's so much in the house part of everything. It's so industrial, but there's all kinds of uses that are not industrial.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I didn't know if there was some.
So much opportunity there,
Right.
so all along.
And
Yeah, we put out percentages, what we think is potential
another question, will this be revisited with rezoning initiatives? Because Brockton currently has a few.
Not at the moment.
Okay, yeah, no. Further down the line, right?
The idea would
That's
be
another
to,
great application.
the idea, I think, would be to maintain this kind of like, our, assessment tool that we covered, last year or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, as zoning changes and stuff, I mean, we want to have this be a consistent tool, yeah, that we can use as things change,
That's a great tool.
That's,
Great question.
yeah,
Very good.
right, absolutely.
I wanna,
Yeah, I know, I see we only have like 5 minutes here, so I'm just gonna, real quickly, so we basically finished, the next section of our SEDS document, so this is the goals and objectives section. And it includes a vision statement and, a number of goals, that, where we've indicated to, improve, a lot of the, strengths, opportunities and weaknesses and threats that we outlined in the SWOT analysis. So, so what there is to know is that we've identified about 6, that we can strive for over the next 5 years. I don't have to go through all of them. I'll just skim through so you can see, supporting growth and opportunities for small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs. Promote enhanced workforce readiness and strengthen career pathways, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So within each of these goals are, objectives that sort of outline particular strategies to follow that help us achieve that goal. And to supplement that is what we refer to as a strategic framework that essentially boils those strategies down into a detailed explanation that is, district or community specific. So for each of these goals, we outline the objectives and then a framework for, any specifics about how we can implement those. Anyway, this is so. I think I attached this in the invitation, that went out to everyone, or on the calendar hold. So, if you haven't yet, just like the other sections of the document, take a look at it. If you have any feedback to provide, we're happy to hear from it and add some stuff. I think it's in a good place right now, but again, if you think it's missing something that it needs, just let us know and we'll be happy to work it in.
What's the next step after this?
Next step, I think, so we want to refine the project list, right?
Project list, performance measures.
And then we
Wrap it up.
Yeah,
We'll put it all together, one document. And the way it works, generally, this committee would make a recommendation to approval to the council. Package it up, send it to the folks.
Are we gonna see the final document? on
Oh, yeah.
paper?
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say before, in case we have input or.
Yeah, so what will happen, as we get closer and all these sections, get close to,
Yeah.
Well, we have input before the document.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so what we'll do, we'll bring the draft completed document before the commission. And we're actually required to, vote on its approval. So when it's finished in draft form, you guys will be able to review it and then, we'll take a vote on it. It's gotta be approved by the EDC. Then it moves on to the council, the OCPC, the governing board of OCPC. And then they have to approve it.
Yeah, this board would make a vote to approve a document for the council.
When will we have access to the document? Not.
Late July, so
Okay.
unless we need to get speed.
Yeah, unless they reach out and say, where is it been?
Okay.
So,
These days.
So you'll give us time to think about it, go over input.
Yeah. So with the next section, as soon as we have the next section done, we'll push it out.
The thing to know is this document allows us to go after federal money for projects. Kind of like a tip document, foundation plan, it's a tool to get money. So it has a lot of information, if that's what it is.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we all have time then.
Oh, yeah.
Analyze it.
You mean you haven't stayed up at night reading?
That's what I planned on doing.
Yeah, we can see who wants to.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up, the recent fiscal challenges that each town is having in the future ones. Like I know my town of Halifax is kind of put it off till next year, but the problem is not gonna go away. So you can stick around and we can talk about this. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, if anyone needs to hop off, feel free, but what we wanted to do is have sort of a small forum to talk about, this issue of these, all the fiscal challenges some of our communities are having, because I think it's pretty interesting. I think out of our 17 OCPC communities, at least 6 or 7 of them have had to go before the voters to ask for a Prop 2.5 tax override. So, just to balance their local town budget. So everyone's got big deficits to make up for lately, and, they end up needing to go back to the voters for it, unfortunately. So, and for all the communities that didn't wind up needing to do that, you mentioned Halifax, nearly all of them have had to make some serious concessions to cut funding and staff to departments or schools or whatever. From what I can see, common denominators seem to be pension liabilities, health costs, healthcare, and that sort of thing, so, but interested in hearing, and curious to hear from communities and some folks about what the costs are and what's been consuming, what's called the big money that they have to go to the voters for.
No, Charlie just, anybody from home making fun?
Anyone online from our communities who wants to weigh in on this?
I can say Pembroke, I know one of our problems is schools, because we don't have enough students for the schools, like we've had a major decline, because everybody, too much 55 and over building, which comes down to the DEP, because it's cheaper to put in a system for 55 and over, where we don't have public sewer, so the sewer affects kids, which are, it's sort of kind of this trickle down, and you get so much per student from the government. So you have less students, but you still have the staff and the overhead of the public schools. And I think a challenge is too, voters don't always realize that and get that back picture pointed out to them. So that's the problem I think we have, and we're probably gonna get hit with a huge override over 3 years. Teachers want more money, or we have to close some schools.
Right. And I know of the 6 or 7 that I think our district had, the only one I think that passed was Hanover. Right? And outside of the OCPC district, same story, right? It was Hingham, Weymouth, Norwell, all in the same position, having to go for overrides. And it's interesting because the voters tend not to approve these things, right? Because, sometimes they chalk it up to mismanagement, but sometimes there's a capital municipal project on the ballot too, and
Yeah, we were discussing
Yeah.
this earlier. Capital project overrides seem to be a little easier, even though just in the last few weeks, some have passed, some haven't. Plimpton, for example, on a $14 million fire station, which they actually didn't pass. But as we know, in January, South Shore Voltech new school passed, which was a big thing, but maybe, I know Pembroke wants it now. Anyways, I would agree. I think from the general public, there's a misconception that it's mismanagement. It's like, I balance my own finances. Why can't the town or the city balance theirs? But we all know these costs, like we were saying, it's healthcare, rising healthcare costs, unfunded liability, pension, different things. So, I don't know if it's perception or what. Someone's gonna have to give. I know, and Duxbury's didn't pass, and so now we're cutting, fire, police, school. I mean, it's not easy.
She asked for like $6 million over there.
Yeah, those are crazy. They shouldn't have done. Yeah, which was what happened with Hanover. Hanover went last year with 6 million, then finally it's 3 point something that passed this year.
yeah, it sounds like, select boards and town administrators and managers that need to be strategic with an override, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, because it makes a difference, right? If they do a 1 year fix, they're gonna be coming back. That's right. Coming back to ask for more to address what wasn't resolved.
Is Bridgewater going for one at the end of the month?
Yes, yeah, mid 21st, I think.
Is anybody on that from Bridgewater? Somebody?
Anyone from Bridgewater on the call? Shane? It was someone else. Oh, okay.
I was wondering how many they told what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
This weekend.
Yeah, for example, outside of the OPC area, but last night or yesterday, there was a vote in North Attleboro for their high school, $290 million school, and it passed by 2/3 majority. Yet in Westwood, a fire station, $30 million fire station failed. So, there's even capital projects. Right now, we were pretty confident, so.
Yeah. Shane, do you guys have an override scheduled? A vote?
We do. I think it's in a couple weeks on a Saturday. So it's incorporating a mix of things, primarily schools. I think roads on there too, but police and fire. So yeah, big override coming in a couple weeks.
You feel confident it's gonna pass? You feel confident it's gonna pass?
What's the outcome?
Listen, as a non-resident of Bridgewater, I feel like there's more support for it than against it. I think that, you know, I think a tax hike may be due, regarding it. I know that we've had some large infrastructure projects. We have the fire station underway and we've gotten a school,
Yeah.
a project, but, yeah, you know, schools need more money and this is the only way to kind of get them the money that they need, at the expense that they, want to utilize it for, so.
Yeah,
Curious.
sounds good.
We can come on some more towns on.
Well, anyone else on, I know we're past our time, so anyone else on remotely, care to weigh in on something? Otherwise, probably wrap up and adjourn.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You guys in October.
All right, thanks, everyone.